live on YouTube, and listen back on Spotify. This is the World of Football podcast.
Get your shades off. You look like a tramp.
Hey, listen, reigning quiz champ.
I'm going to have to join in a minute, lads. Come on.
We may as well. Good evening to the night driving edition of the World of Football podcast. Yes, if you can hear it, this time I'm doing it deliberately. I'm not fucking it up. We are playing some background music for everybody. Some night driving. Something soothing. The lads like it. I like it. So I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit. Welcome to your Monday night edition of the World of Football podcast. Of course, we were live last night for the quiz that ended in a 5-point victory for Julio. Impressive, most impressive. Of course, tonight, just want to give our comments out there to anyone who is struggling, of course, worldwide. We send you our support, and everyone is doing well tonight. So sit back, relax for about 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Grab a hot beverage.
Or a goat drink and just enjoy the show. But obviously, joining me this evening, unfortunately, comes from Wales, but at least he's got no Gareth Barry stinger to produce. It is Nathan. How are we?
I am very well, thank you very much, Reece. Another Cardiff loss at the weekend, I'm sure. We'll lose again tomorrow.
We're back.
Yeah, it's a nice run.
Cardiff City are back.
We're back.
Tan's doing it. He's doing his thing. Cardiff City are back.
Vincent Tan, he's the man with a plan. Vincent Tan. We gotta love it. Let's get on with it tonight. We got some big topics, let's just say.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. The remontada is on for Cardiff City and decline. And below me...
Can we just say how amazing Julio's mug is? Look at that thing of beauty.
I know, he's such an Aldi boy, eh? Oldie, I should say, but still Aldi if you think about it. And of course, he is below me, and that's where he is in the pecking order, but it's still good to see him. It is Julio. How are we?
Yeah, I mean, all right, all things considered, whilst Nathan's club is making a comeback, mine isn't.
That's true. Well, which one? Which one? Northampton Town?
No, United on this occasion. A win is a win, but there's not much else to go on. That's it.
We're gonna come at that tonight. Don't you worry. Yeah. We're gonna come to that. There is some positivity tonight. There is some negativity. We will have to obviously go through negativity. That is RefWatch. We do have another new segment. It's going to be called Manager Watch from next week. But tonight, because it's the first manager discussion in the podcast of the season, we have two managers. One who's been dismissed. Fantastic. The other is close. Now, we had Michael Beale last week. Now we get something fresh. We've got a Premier League manager and we've got an Ajax manager. We're going to cook. We are going to cook. So Manager Watch next week. El Clasico returned at the weekend and also had a controversial decision, might I add. So we're going to discuss the controversy of that. Federico Valverde, you, sir, were robbed against Barcelona. You were robbed. But also, I would also like to say, whilst we are... That's fine, I can put the sound down a little bit. That's fine, I can put the sound down. We'll put the sound down by 30 to 20. There we go. Nice. Oh, just noticed. There we go. Oh, it's got a loop track. Fade tracks in and out. Yeah.
Reece is loving this.
We're gonna have fade on, and we're gonna go through all the tracks tonight. We're gonna go through them all. I also want to give...
This guy discovers the jukebox for 5 seconds, and suddenly he's playing every single damn thing he can on it.
Yeah, this is my show. I have power, and the power will be exposed. I also want to... I mentioned it yesterday when we did the quiz that obviously we sent our respects to Sir Bobby Charlton. I just want to say as well, on the back of that I want to give praise to a club that I especially hate when it comes to football from a rivalry perspective. But I'd like to, on behalf of the World Football Podcast, shout praise to Manchester City for the way they've actually handled the disgraceful TikTok video that was released yesterday. Thank you to Manchester City for actually not condoning that sort of behaviour, and 2, lifetime bans will be issued to those fans once they are found. So that's fantastic. In the chat, of course, she is ever present. She is a delight. She watches Sporting, but she doesn't hold back. She is no holds barred. It's the Manchester Queen herself. It is Maisie. Good evening to you. And of course, Maisie, sit in the background. She's watching Spurs versus Fulham. And I mentioned Sporting. It's Porro versus Polinia. It's the Maisie Derby. We'll rename it that. Fulham versus Sporting is now... Sorry, Fulham versus Spurs is the Sporting Maisie Derby. That's what it's called from now on. We'll leave it at that. We will leave it at that. But here is something I'd like to discuss with you boys, because this relates to last night. There's the end of the next track. Here comes some rock. Just to let you know. See, I'm not looking. I just know what's coming. But there is something I want to discuss, boys, over the back of what I've just said, which is a problem. What is it with fans, or self-entitled or claimed fans, who go out of their way purposely to mock and abuse the ill of the dead? What is it with fans that... What is it about them and their ideology and their psychology, the mentality to just go, a football legend that's died, let's be real, but even if you didn't support the man, and this is what I want to bring up as well. I didn't look into the player who died, so I am not going to comment, but the Man City fans that are mocking the Charlton death, they lost a club legend, a week ago? 2 weeks ago? Yeah. So I find it quite hypocritical that they're doing it as well. I don't understand the thought process, but I just want to ask you guys, and in the chat as well, what is it about the ideology and the psychology that they have to go with? Like, what is the need? Like, what is the need for it? And Nathan, yourself, obviously, the South Wales Derby, you'll know this more than anyone. Like, it's an absolute clusterfuck. But it's
saying that is like underestimating how bad it can get. And I'll get onto it in a minute, my opinions, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It is an absolute clusterfuck of a derby, but you see it in football. I've seen it in the Old Firm derbies. I've seen it, like, watching, funnily enough, El Clasico. We're going to talk about that. There is so much, but what's crazy, and this is genuine, and also Maisie saying she'll always back Polinia versus Deal, but I won't be able to cope. We know. The one thing that interests me from a fan's psychology is you never hear it from United fans towards Liverpool, but in reverse, you hear Munich air disaster.
Yeah.
You see the airplane signals. And this is not because I don't actively go looking for it, but I have never seen a Man United fan mock the Hazel disaster, which is often ignored, by the way, by Liverpool, which I don't understand. It's often ignored when there's a tragedy involving them and Juventus.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've never seen a Man United fan mock Hillsborough, but I've seen City fans, Chelsea fans, Liverpool fans, Leeds fans, who are probably the worst for it. They all mock the Munich air disaster. What is it about the psychology, in your opinion, that thinks, we're just going to go for it? I know it's not the best of topics to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, but it is becoming ever present and it has to be addressed.
Yeah, so I think this is the perfect time to do it as well. And the first thing I would like to say, just in relation to sort of Hazel, etc., Hillsborough, another aspect, in particular with Manchester United, I have never seen Man United fans just mention anything about it inside Old Trafford. At away grounds and away ends. It is always on Twitter. I mean, we may have, like other clubs, in particular Liverpool, Leeds, Millwall is especially bad for it as well. Reading, if just check back to one of my vlogs a few years ago when everyone knows the story that I caught on camera. Just, don't even need to go there, but
horrible.
Absolutely disgusting. Like, in my
Throw
opinion...
Throw it in as well, sorry. This is
Yeah.
the last one. I've never seen a Celtic fan mock the Ibrox disaster either.
That's a very good point.
Which says a lot.
And even with the hatred of both of those derbies, of course, it's quite mad how one can be this and then one can be another. But I think the reason that it is inflamed, because I've noticed that it's inflamed a lot in the last couple of years as well. I think it hasn't helped between A, social media, and B, also the lockdown as well, where it kept people out of the football stadiums for a year and a half, 2 years. And obviously all of it built up. All of the poor behaviour at football grounds has built up again. The arrests have gone through the roof. Antisocial behaviour, the whole shebang. It's not even just in relation to tragedy chanting. Like, I remember at the start of the season, because the EFL is trying to clamp it down. And I'm going to go back to my club here. Cardiff City and Leeds put out a statement before our opening game of the season, basically saying no Galatasaray chants and also no Salah chants. Second, both fans go into the stadium, you know what happens. Exactly the same happened with the South Wales derby. Basically, no Salah chants, no Terry Cole's chants. Look what happens. And when it happens as well, it gets documented, but nothing happens.
That's a good point.
The reason nothing happens is because everyone is so scared to do anything about it. Now, the reason it's more prevalent with these chanting in like the South Wales derby and stuff, and the swim away could also be added to that as well, because technically that's inciting hooliganism. I know I'm going to get a lot of kickback on it, but put it in perspective. I'm sorry, but 50 Swansea fans chasing 20 Cardiff fans under the age of 25 into the sea. Come on.
Yeah, there's level of hatred, and then there's deliberately forcing young fans to run into the sea when, one, it's freezing cold, and two, it could get a whole lot worse depending on what's chasing you.
It exactly is, and I don't think it's helped the fact as well. And I love it how they made a meme about it and not even looked into it further, that Russell Martin was doing the gesture towards our fans. When was it? That was his first game at the Swancom in the derby. Literally just went up to the away end. There's photos online. All I'll say is look at it, but that's not being me being toxic or ever. I can mention loads of times about the Canter Mile, etc., all the things that Cardiff have done, Battle of Ninian Park. I can be hypocritical myself, and in fact, by me saying that, this is bad, but then again, what I've just said could equally be as bad. So there's standards to it at the end of the day, but
you're right,
there's a line. Right. You need to find that area where you put the line. And I think with some events that have happened in the last couple of years, it's impossible to picture the line, because either way, some people will say, oh, you've gone too soft and the world's gone nuts, adding in a Piers Morgan statement there, or we go into it where to say that the rules are too lenient and it's causing too many people to get offended. It's where you draw this line.
I'm all for, you guys know me, everyone on here practically knows me, and I am all for absolute, I love banter back and forth. I can take it, I can dish it out. I can dish it out, and I can definitely take it. I draw the line right at the very top. Ill of the dead. Yeah. Or a disaster. That's a no-no. You will never hear me mock Hazel. You will never hear me mock Hillsborough. I've got nothing to do with Bradford, but you won't hear me talk about the Bradford disaster like that. You won't see me talk about the Ibrox disaster like that. There's others across the globe. I'm never going to, because it's wrong. The worst thing about it as well is, if you've got to talk about the dead to either get attention or get your point across, that already sums up your lack of intelligence.
And it also shows how much you crave attention as well.
Yeah.
The fact 100%. That you are that desperate for clout and that desperate for clicks that you've got to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, all I'll say is look at our first South Wales derby after we got relegated from the Premier League. Straight away, bang, Wales Online painting Swansea fans in a negative light. For you all know the story.
We do.
If you want to, if you want to look at it on Wales Online, go for it. I'm not even going to give it the light of day, but quite frankly, that's the escalation right there.
Yeah, I just have a joke with you. If I've gone too far, then I at least somebody will tell me. I may not notice it straight away, but if somebody tells me, I will apologise. That's the total difference.
I mean, hello, at the end of the day, you got banter and then you got crossing the line. It's just ultimately where you find it.
Absolutely. And you hear us mocking Doug all the time for supporting a shit football club. But Doug comes back at us in the same way. Like, it's totally... That's proper banter. Like, people can take the mick out of me all the time, and I'm alright with that. Like, I don't mind. But there's a level of degree, and there's some fan bases who have become so entitled that with their entitlement, they're now taking abuse to a new level, when for years they were the ones who fans were actually sticking up for, because they were in so much shit, and now they've become the self-entitled fan base that they think they're better than everyone, and it's wrong. And we know what club I'm talking about. I'm not even going to bother mentioning them, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. But it's that level of disrespect goes to a whole new level, and they take it. And I completely agree with this comment here from Maisie. There's levels of banter, and you got to know someone's boundaries. Yes, I completely agree with you. And I've read that article. Yeah, I've read it. It's, even though it's the Daily Mail, it's horrible. This as well, another great comment. Then once them boundaries are done, the person will start to feel fed up and think, yeah, what's the point?
And that's where it just goes back and forth, which that's why I think in particular, and I know I'm going to name it again, the South Wales derby has just gone out of control with it. Because at the end of the day, we'll think of one thing, they'll think of another thing.
It gets to a point where it's a he said, she said thing. Yeah. It becomes a point of a he said this or he said that. Well, you could said this, and it gets to a point where now, ever since everyone's come back, there's been a lot of instances in the past 2 years since fans have come back into stadiums, that people have just forgotten how to behave themselves. And it's become such a grey area now where all the lines are blurred and there's no line that you can cross at this point.
Just going to ask you something on the back of your point then, Julio, because this is something you just mentioned I find incredible. And I'm not saying incredibly stupid or incredibly naive, it's not, but this is actually genuinely important on the back of something you've just said. People are forgetting how to behave. What if that's not the case? What if it's just the fact is this is hell-bent frustration that's been locked inside for them during COVID when they couldn't let it out? Because we saw what fans are like as an energy. Yeah. What if this is, and I'm not using this as an excuse, by the way, so don't think I'm using this as an excuse. But what if that is all that hell-bent frustration they've went, you know what, we're going to have to fucking get it all out now.
But then you question what the frustration is, and where in the line of you start getting frustrated and what you say, where along the line does it get lost to say, how can you get so frustrated during COVID that you end up mocking Hillsborough or Munich or wherever? The bottom line is there is a minority that is growing and growing and growing. I agree. That is ruining it for everyone else. And you just got a question that is getting to the point now where the authorities need to take a stronger stance in that they need to rip it all back and start again almost. What their original process was before COVID, it looks like it's getting to the point where they need to take a step back, rip up the blueprint, start again from scratch, because it looks like it needs a massive reset because of how bad it's gotten. People can say, oh, it's soft, it's this, you're soft, you've gone soft, it's this and that, whatever. You brought it on yourselves. And the way I see it is there was an interesting comment earlier.
Which one?
And it was from Heller, I think it was, which is the conclusion about the lowlives, which reminded me of a quote, which was...
this one?
Yeah, that one, which reminds me of a quote, which was that never argue with an idiot. They will only bring you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is...
that's about arguing with people who are stupid.
I understand it's not exactly the same, but it links in the sense of these are a bunch of idiots. We can't even begin to comprehend what goes through their head if they're decided that an appropriate insult or an appropriate thing to shout at a football match, 1 pint in or 6 pints in, is mocking a horrible disaster. You know, I think there are moments where fans come together. For example, when the Liverpool fans at Anfield applauded for Ronaldo 7 minutes into a match because obviously he lost his child. But whilst there are nice moments like that, those only come in small doses. We're seeing a lot of videos released after games where fans are chasing each other down past pubs or whatever in big crowds. And we saw what happened at Wembley. We saw, obviously, regardless of whose fault it was, the issues in Paris. That's still an issue, regardless of whether it's UEFA's fault or if they're going to blame fans.
That was UEFA's fault. That was massively.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that there are a lot of troubles at matches now, and they're becoming a lot more frequent. And
we saw it last year. We saw it last year. We saw it last year. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there. We saw it last year. Funnily enough, when you mentioned France, we were in the middle of a stream last year. It was during the Marseille game, and the Marseille game literally got called off during our show. And
I remember that game.
Yeah,
and it was because of fighting with fans, and it was completely unheard of. But the biggest shock is the fans that have done it this season that nobody saw coming. Ajax fans attacking during the Feyenoord game. We know it's a very we know it's a fiery atmosphere, but Ajax fans aren't renowned for that. They aren't.
There seems to be an uprise of new ultras being... Now, there are some people who probably think having an ultras would be fun, which would then lead to promoting hooliganism, and then suddenly we're back in the 80s and 90s where it's such a big problem. The bottom line is, I think that whoever needs to, whoever's at the top...
Ultras are bad, though. Not all ultras are bad.
I'm not saying they're bad, but the problem is a lot of new groups are being built.
No, they are. I agree with that.
And they're becoming an issue. It's almost like they see it's like we saw at the end of the PSG for Lyon nil game. We saw the Lyon ultras shouting through a megaphone at their players at the end of the game.
Oh yeah,
like as long as it's not violent, it's fine. You can have a set of fans that like show passion like that. However,
go back to the it was before. It was, funnily enough, last season. Go back to it was after the Milan Champions League first leg semi-final derby. Milan fans absolutely rattled the players and Pioli. They got in completely in their heads at the game against Monza and the home game because they did not turn up for the Champions League games. But then
even when it's not matches, we saw what happened to Lukaku in the summer. You had Juve ultras outside just going like, "We don't want you." Like, stay away from us. Stop flirting with us.
Yeah, exactly. They got it as well. Juve fans got it as well, funnily enough. Also at Monza away, not at the Allianz Stadium. They got it at the Monza ground because they are so bloody passionate. And what's the difference between their ultras and others? They didn't go out in the field and attack them. They could if they wanted to. But you've got, at the San Siro, for example, you've got 70,000 fans. 30,000 odd of them are in the Curva Sud, shouting and bawling at you because you're fucking shit, and you've got no attitude to play for one of football's most prestigious clubs. That is how a fan should act. Remind a player what their history is for the club they play for. You don't need to. They didn't abuse them, but they wrote at them. Pioli addressed it, funnily enough, in his press conference. He's like, "No, we got the message. We got the message."
Yeah,
Juve fans done that as well. They done the exact same thing, and what happened? Juve went on a winning streak until the end of the season. Then they got the points deducted. That is difference. Not the shit.
It is? I think there is an element of frustration, of course, with what happened with COVID. And I think what that leads to is people be locked inside for a year and a half. They almost don't know how to behave when there's all this energy around them, and it almost becomes too much. And nowadays, it's very easy for one person to start a fight with another, and then suddenly two of his mates are coming in, and then three of his mates are coming in to back his mate, and then all of a sudden it's this big brawl. Between it, like where two fans are divided, there's 100 people in that spot where it becomes an issue, and it's a growing problem. And I think if they're going to put a stop to it, they need to do it before it becomes an even bigger problem, because we could see another disaster on our hands. We could see more loss of life in the Premier League, and it's
Yeah.
and no one's
And abroad, yeah. And abroad.
Like another thing I'm going to bring to it as well, and this has been a problem forever for certain
run
reasons.
it back. The vibes were different. Run it back.
Same.
I had run it back. Lockdown. I could do with another lockdown.
It's just
what
weird.
I would do.
Weird time.
Not
But
good.
another
If another lockdown happened, I'm changing country first. If another lockdown happens, I'm changing country first. I've already got the ideas.
I'll join you, but it's like Cardiff and Swansea fans literally cannot sit. I'm not saying this is for all of them, because I know a lot of Swansea fans who will go in the Canton end at Wales games. But there is this like massive section where you have Cardiff fans over here, Swansea fans over there, and that's for the ones who support the national team, because there's a lot of them who don't.
Wait a minute. Comment of the night.
That's fantastic.
I applaud this. I want another lockdown. Loved working from home, eating Nutella toast every day. That is. I'm not on this. I don't like Nutella. I'll be honest with you, but I love that comment. That is gold. Carry on, Nathan.
But yeah, like I was saying, it's some derbies have just gone so far beyond. And I know it's not. This isn't related with football. This is just related with Cardiff as a city and Swansea as a city, or as a town, I should say, because technically they shouldn't be a city. But that's another stream in itself. Aside from that, but at the end of the day, some things can be sorted. Like you can clamp down on it now, and you can get these fans unified and back to it. But at the end of the day, you are going to have these situations where it's just so far gone. In particular,
what's interesting? Yes, we are going to, funnily enough, talk about that goal. Bringing up Swansea, it was a class goal. There is actually one thing I really want to bring up, and this is something that's really interesting as well. You see the difference of videos recently, like the City one, obviously they were wearing hoods to cover their face. They're going to get caught because facial recognition, you can still get caught. But then you had the Newcastle video where the two guys came up. I think it was a man and his son, completely visible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is total. Like, it's either they think they're untouchable, or they think they won't get caught. There has to be an element of, first of all, it is bravery. It is. Like, that is sheer bravery to go and do it, especially if you're not wearing a mask or anything to cover up like a hood. But it's fucking stupid to do it anyway, because the minute you do it, that's your life over. Especially if you're employed. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Say I was at a football game. Well, I've been at plenty, but say I was at an Old Firm game, and obviously my work knows, obviously I'm a United fan, but they know obviously Ranger stuff as well. If I was in the Broomloan Road stand, which is the family stand, right? That's where I normally go with like my dad and my brother when we go to games. If I'm in the Son's just scored 1-0 Tottenham. Nice. Lovely. If I'm in the Broomloan Road stand, right, with my family, and I've been in there, I've nearly been hit in the face with a flare before. Quality. If I was to turn around at a Celtic fan, or the Celtic fans, and started shouting sectarian songs, I'm never going to. I find it disgusting anyway. But if I'm chanting that, or anything related to Celtic Boys Club, which is also another historical shithouse itself and disgusting.
That is a no-no song.
Yeah, I don't go near that stuff. But if I was to mention any of that at a Rangers game, right, it was caught on film, and it was to my work, you don't even get an investigation. It's termination, because obviously my work has very high values of immediately no racism, no bigotry, none of that. It's immediate. It's literally, you're in an office, sat down with a HR rep, your line manager, and like a high up operations manager.
You're
gone.
out.
Yeah, exactly. You're gone. There is people now that are that stupid on social media that will post a video or they'll say something thinking they'll get away with it, Oh yeah, all employments are, but there's some who are very stupidly lenient, which I don't understand. There's some that are full zero tolerance, and there's some that aren't. But there's, what was I saying there? Sorry. So there are fans easily nowadays that are that naive that they'll have all their information locked on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like if it's got any links to LinkedIn, like their jobs and all that, people are immediately just screenshotting their details and they're just sending it to their employer with the video evidence. Again, you're done, because you can't defend it, and you can't go, but that wasn't me. Like, how are you going to prove it? Like, that's another thing that's a problem these days, is people that will do that have got no. There's no, like, there's line in the sand, and then there's you're dead and buried. Pardon the pun, but you're dead and buried. Like, your professional life is over, and possibly your personal life, depending on how serious, like, what stupidity is. Them ones probably captured, or probably still in school. The only one I saw was a fully grown adult with a child, but the ones that was about the City game, I don't know. But it's still disgusting. Anyway, that opening 30 minutes, we had to do that.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get on to something a little bit more topical of over the weekend. It was announced earlier during the day. I'm pretty sure you can correct me on that. Bournemouth. Now, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but over the summer, we praised Areola for coming in as the right guy for Bournemouth. Bournemouth are 9 matches without a win. They are struggling for wins right now, struggling for results. They are in the relegation zone. And Areola's future at the club is in serious jeopardy. Now, I would love to get a Bournemouth fan's opinion on this, but I don't know a lot of Bournemouth fans. I only know one. I haven't seen his point of view, so I don't know what Craig thinks, but he's a very good Bournemouth fan. But we are going to come on to him. Yes. But in terms of Areola, I still think he's the right man for Bournemouth, but I think if Bournemouth get rid of him, it's just stupid without at least giving him a chance to turn it around. Julio, I want to get your opinion on this first, regarding Areola. What is your general thoughts around Bournemouth? And I'm going to ask you the same question I'm going to ask Nathan. Do you think it's the right decision to sack Areola now? Or do you think they should stick with him? I just want to get your point of view across. And Maisie's coming out with the peach of a comment again, and this is for Ajax. Woman, you just keep melting my heart with these comments. Hope they sign Frank Lampard. Not gonna lie, Ajax in the relegation zone with Frank Lampard, it'd be fucking hilarious. But we'll come back to Ajax shortly. We're going with Bournemouth first. So, Julio, what were you?
I mean, it's a weird one, because in the summer when it happened, we said that we weren't surprised. This was an American owner coming in and they wanted to change it and make it a more fashionable style of play. Gary O'Neill did a good job as manager, but he was more of he worked with what he got. In terms of, we heard the American owner come out in the summer and say what he wants to do and what he plans to do with Bournemouth. He's also said the words that, he'll live by his decision. So if it comes May and, they're in the Championship, it was his decision and he has to live with that. Fair enough. So he's got faith in himself almost in terms of what he's doing. And to be honest, I know we've seen the reports. I struggle to believe that they're actually true, because I think that we all said at the start of the season that Bournemouth would. There have been plenty of games we've said that they've been close. They lost to the weekend through idiocy. with that last goal. I think that if you're going to bring in a manager for some kind of project, spend all that summer and then give him the boot before it's Halloween, I don't think it's been that bad. It's not been Frank de Boer levels of bad. I think it's been a case, so I think you'll be hitting the panic button a little. I think if you're going to bring someone in, for a project of some kind, you have to give him time. And I think that with what he's trying to do, yeah, sure, you could argue that maybe like there's a couple of things at play. You could argue that maybe he's had enough time. He's had preseason and he's had the start of the season. They're still not won a game. You could argue that he's not managed with the spending and such pressure on him. If you know what I mean, like managing Bournemouth different to his previous jobs in terms of how much money Bournemouth have spent. For example, his previous pedigree is being almost the underdog story, limited budget, going on good cup runs, for example. But personally, I don't think it's. I think if you're going to sack him, I think personally it would have to still be this bad, or at least this level. If bad's probably the wrong word.
They are class, to be fair.
Both of them are class. Yeah, I think come Christmas maybe, if questions are really being asked at Christmas, then maybe you could argue, do you stick or twist? It doesn't surprise me that they haven't got it glued together yet. They're not gelled properly yet. We did say that they might start slow, but second half of the season, like that last 10 games, we could see them win 6 or 7 of those, because I think then their style would have developed. So I think Bournemouth have to give it time. I think from what I've heard of the ownership when they've come out and spoken, I think that they are going to give Iraola time. But obviously, other owners will say, well, hang on a minute, we spent too long with one manager and look where that got us, for example. And then there's all about the Premier League and the parachute payments, etc., etc. So I think that there is right to be concerned, because Bournemouth, the problem Bournemouth had with is that the teams around them in the same position haven't been as good as them. They've lost one of their big transfers of the summer to a long-term injury in Adams, which probably doesn't help, but that's just one player. I've always been of the note that you can't rely on Dom Solanke to score goals in the Premier League, which you could argue is another issue. But
then again, you just add into that as well, you also have Philip Billing behind, who I will always say is a very, very good Premier League player. And then even on the bench as well, that can get you goals. Kiefer Moore, why isn't he being utilised more? Why?
Good point.
Well, if Solanke's not scoring the goals, yes, he did score the weekend. Why aren't you playing him? And it looks like he's going to get shipped off to Cardiff for $1 million in January.
And I will be there no matter what.
What a waste that would be, putting £2 million down the drain.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the bottom line from me is that he should stay for now. And I say for now because going into a team that last year no one expected to stay up, you could argue stayed up because they picked up a good run of form when everyone else had terrible results. And then they almost stayed up because everyone was so bad in the second half of the season. Gary O'Neill played a bit more pragmatic as opposed to more expansive football. And I think that, big projects seem to be more successful when you spend more money. Do you know what I mean? Or when you get the recruitment spot on. This is a new sort of era for Bournemouth that we're seeing. They're not Brighton yet. If Brighton is the benchmark for a smaller coastal town, city, whatever, for a small coastal club to develop into some kind of project, they're not there yet. So you got to give them time. I don't think they're anywhere
near it either.
No, they're not. Brighton have done a lot on and off the pitch. There were points under Graham Potter where they looked like they couldn't score. There was a point when Brighton fans were thinking, is it that when the media was suggesting, is it time for Potter to go? So I think that it could well be that this set to sack. They heard we're a little bit concerned, obviously, because we don't won a game, and they've probably milked that into an article. It could be media driven. It could be genuine concern. So I think that for me, I'm not reading too much into it. it wouldn't surprise me, because it wouldn't surprise me if it's American owner hitting the panic button because Premier League survival. But I think that from the words that the owner has said himself, he seems very set in himself to say that I tried something, it didn't work, but I've given it as much time as possible. So I think that I personally would stick, and I think the owner will stick with Iraola for the time being.
Well, here's my perspective on it, because I don't think it's directly Iraola on it. I think that in the first scenario, massively, the Bournemouth players have underperformed this season, because when you look at it compared to what else they have, aside from it, that Lewis Cook red card, shocking. Di Brooks is coming into form now. Tavernier is a good player in the Premier League. They have a good defensive base, and Max Aarons is fantastic. Alex Scott coming in from Bristol City
They have the quality.
They have the quality, and I think that the system is perfect for them. But at the end of the day, I really think they are underperforming. And when looking at the stats as well, so wasteful and constantly losing it in possession is another aspect of it. Like Wolves under Gary O'Neill, they got destroyed at their own game. They gave the Wolves the ball, Wolves dominated with it, and we know that Wolves haven't been the greatest in possession over the last couple of years, but in particular under Gary O'Neill and where they were last year under Bruno Lage as well. But I think the reason being that we're getting a lot of hints that he's getting sacked is because of what they did last year. That 9-0 where Scott Parker got given the boot straight away. Now, that was football ingenious, because they could see the shortcomings of when they got promoted from the Championship the season prior. Like, just 1,000,000% possession football, winning 1-0 and that's it, and then just keeping it round the back. Stupid amounts of the ball, not generating many chances. And at the end of the day, when they saw against Liverpool, they just knew it wasn't going to work. So that was a genius move, getting rid of him. Completely shying away from that style of play. Gary O'Neill comes in, completely shores them up. But I don't think it's Iraola at all. I think that if he gets a little bit more time, look at it by Christmas, if they still haven't won a game, then maybe begin to look at the panic button. But the run they have had as well, in the circumstances, is also very difficult. They haven't really had that many promising games aside from Wolves, which even them beforehand, they've had such a tricky run, and that's going to reduce morale. When they get that first win, which Iraola is definitely screaming out for, then we might see some points on the board. But it is just waiting for that first win and seeing how they build from there. If they don't build from it and then they go back into their old ways and hit complacency, then maybe it's the time to get rid. But I think if they sack him now, they could be in a very sticky situation, because who are they going to go for that's going to benefit that squad? I can't think of anyone at the moment.
Unless it's going backwards in style of play.
Yeah.
Which would be likely the aim. So I was just getting the mic out properly. So I'll make sure, how's the sound? Sound good?
Yeah, brilliant.
Nice. I've got I was going to use the smaller mic, but I went for the big one. I'm going to move the position. I'm going to move
bigger is better, Reece. Come on, you'll know what I'm about.
Yeah, personality. Big personality is always good to have, you know. And
I was thinking bank account, but I guess that works too.
Yeah, mine's Trump's as well.
Probably.
But that's just because I work for it. Oh, hello, what's that? No idea who he is. Some random, I've never seen that before. Okay.
But yeah, looking back at Bournemouth as well, just looking at who they've played, they haven't had a great pre-season. Let me have a look. No wins, full stop. Then you have starts the season, good draw against West Ham. And then aside from that, it's been very low scoring results. I mean, the only game they've won is against Swansea in the Cup, which is hilarious. And even then they took them to 3-2, and we knew how bad they were how completely shocking they were in August. But
it just wasn't a good result in general, even like that Swansea game. Like, it was really bad.
Signings in the summer.
Yeah, I think
that's
maybe
that's transfers.
I think that was maybe a bit more than what Iraola may have wanted. But again, I don't think he was in the job at the time, was he? So I wonder if that's
no, he's been in the job, I think, since about May.
Yeah, because
June,
they got Gary O'Neill straight away
in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah. So those signings are a little bit more than what even he might have hoped for.
And he
You know?
might, because, Nathan, you mentioned Kiefer Moore. It could well be that he doesn't like Kiefer Moore as a striker. I don't know exactly who he had beforehand.
But then
I'm not
again, the thing I'll look at it is when you have two behemoth strikers as your 1 and 2,
use them, play to their strengths. Exactly.
Maybe you don't want
It
big
comes down to
strikers,
management
but
adaptability. You got managers who want to use what they want. There was a debate of this on Monday Night Football. How long ago? 5-6 years ago, which was literally like talk about Unai Emery. Does he come in and do what he wants, or does he come in, implement what he wants, but still adapt? It's the debates me and Reece are having with Ten Hag. It's debates with all managers coming in. I think that if you've got two behemoth strikers, you need to play to their strengths whilst you've got them, because you need goals. Goals keep you up in the Premier League.
I say this and I stand by it. If a manager who comes in has a specific style of play and he chooses to adapt to the league, not force the league to adapt to him, then he's already screwed. That's why the likes of Jurgen Klopp and that's why Klopp and Guardiola survived.
I have with that is the scope. Pep and Klopp can come in easily and do that with the influence and the clubs that they're at, whereas I think managers coming in at lower clubs are probably more or less trying to adapt to what's in front of them.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't theoretically, but I just think it's all about money at the end of the day, and I think
if you had say you've got a budget of if your season budget is 500k compared to Man United, which is about 215 million, give or take, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, United are going to trump you in terms of player signings. In terms of how many they can fork out, United are going to absolutely blow you out of the water. Or you'd expect that, depending on who they actually sign. But then you could have really smart business through the loan system or the free transfers, and you could actually do better than United. So it's not about how you adapt, it's what you know. If you exploit what you know, you will get somewhere. Look at coincidentally enough, look at Brighton. They've just spent low amounts of money on players from foreign countries that maybe you would think these big clubs should be looking at, should be targeting, but are they? No. But now they are. You look at Leicester, they did the same thing, bringing in players from France or League Two, and they're just working their way through. Can they develop into a team? You look at like Arsene Wenger done it when he first joined Arsenal. All he did was sign French players or players who have got relations to French, like Kanu. Like it fits to what you know, because you're not adapting to the league. You're forcing the league to adapt to you. Pace, power, technique. It's coincidence enough that Arsenal have not won a league in nearly 20 years because they went away from pace, power, and technique. They haven't won a league because of that. They think they're supposed to play at Barcelona.
A lot of players they've bought has had one or the other almost.
Yeah.
I say that even though I hate them completely, Arsenal would have won the league 4 or 5 more times under Arsene Wenger before he retired if they had just stuck to pace, power, and technique and didn't decide to play full-on tiki-taka football.
Because he tried to, because of the Emirates era, he almost had to cut down on how much he was spending. Whilst the market was increasing, he was still trying to go with these shrewd signings. You can't tell me that he was going to win the league in 2010 or 11, for example, with the likes of an out of sorts Koscielny, who wasn't that convincing at the start, and Sebastian Scalacci coming in. If they were able to spend a bit more money, maybe he could have been able to keep.
I'm not saying shrewd signings. Yes, the likes of Emmanuel Petit and Patrick Evra and all that, and Dennis Bergkamp before him, he was signed by George Graham and all that. But what I mean is, I'm not saying the shrewd signings side of it. I'm saying the minute Arsenal stopped playing players that have pace, power, and technique, they got bullied by everyone on the field. They got bullied. Like the first game at Emirates, for example, they got bullied. They got battered by a very weak Man United team, 8-2. It was a weak United side, let's be real, even though it was champions. We had won the league that season, but we actually look at the whole performance. we were weak going into the season, but we battered Arsenal and we grew into it because we were coming in on form. Arsenal in general, the teams that I remember, did dominate possession. They were already dominating possession anyway before possession obsession was a thing. They were still doing it, but they were doing it with a very effective 4-4-2. The best striker to ever join the Premier League in Thierry Henry. It pains me to say, but he is, apart from Van Nistelrooy and Cantona and all that, like as a centre forward. But when you look at like what they had, like I always say the best Arsenal team I ever saw was Seaman, that back four from '98, which included Tony Adams, absolutely amazing. Lee Dixon, wanker, but he was great in that team. That midfield four, Petit, Vieira, and then up front in that team, funnily enough, you had Anelka and you had Bergkamp. But then you look at the Invincible season where you could mix them both together. You had Gilberto Silva beside Vieira. You had Perez and Bergkamp, Bloomberg. You had Bergkamp and Thierry Henry. You had Ashley Cole. You had Laurent. You had
all the ingredients, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And in the years since,
Campbell and Cole Toure.
the narrative of Arsenal being too soft, became, I agree with you 100%. My only issue was the fact that for years, Arsenal misspent money. For example, they sold Fabregas, Nasri, and Clichy all in the same summer.
Which we know. Yeah.
But they didn't replace them adequately.
Yeah.
They brought in a centre-back like they always needed. For years, they were crying for a leader at the back, and they brought in Mertesacker. Nasri and Fabregas leave. They bring in Gervinho, and Clichy leave. They bring in Gervinho, Arteta,
Giroud, Mustafi.
Giroud was a year later. Mustafi a few years down the line. They needed a goalkeeper. They brought in Petr Cech. That was the only signing that summer. Do you know what I mean? The fact of the matter is, yeah, exactly. It was practically nothing. The fact of the matter is, that's what I mean. Years down the line, Arsenal declined, and they didn't invest properly enough. And when they started to invest in 2016, 2017, etc., with big money signings,
look at the best players they signed.
It was already
as well.
too late. It was already too late.
Look at what's crazy as well is I think Arsene Wenger must have travelled back in time or something when it got to that period of 13-14 summer of 13. They signed Mesut Ozil, the big signing.
But that was the summer after being linked with every single top striker in the planet: Rooney, Higuain, Benzema, Suarez. Regardless of whether they were going to get them or not, there is a story that apparently they were linked with Higuain and he didn't want to pay 40 million for Real Madrid's backup striker. I wouldn't pay 40 million pounds for Higuain no matter how good he was, because I've never rated the guy. But the point is that they were still missing that big lethal name up front. And then they declined
Falcao as well. They could have Falcao that was linked to United as well at the time. They could have Lewandowski. They could have had. They could have had Jackson.
They didn't have the pull then.
I think
summer,
Arsenal
you saw
always
Falcao
have
and
that
Cavani leave their clubs.
Yeah. I think you still could have had the pull. I think Arsenal have always had the pull. They just couldn't produce.
They wouldn't spend the board wouldn't spend the money. That's always been the issue for years. So Arsenal declined as far as it did. And no one and we didn't realize it until pretty much too late, because they would spend money for years, and that decline almost backlogged.
And when you look at the players they did sign as well, which is incredible. I mean,
they signed some good players, but they signed some bad ones as well.
Mesut Ozil was the first. The next one that was massive, is probably the best signing Arsenal made in the whole 2010s, was Alexis Sanchez. Then you get Alexander Lacazette. Then in a January signing, you get Aubameyang. And I'm like...
Yeah, that's like almost £100 million of striker within 6 months of each other. And one, because the first one wasn't as convincing as everyone was thinking.
It's pretty much, in that case, just throwing money at nothing until it sticks, which you cannot do in the Premier League. The more you spend, the more you got to get rid of, and the more you slide down that table. And we've seen it with so many different teams, so many different times, and that comment is on the nose.
And I'm going to give another example to somebody who, in this case, is an underrated option, but has actually done it at two clubs. One of them, he didn't win anything. The other club, he was successful. David Moyes.
Yeah.
David Moyes has proven that right. At Everton, he had a genuinely good side. They got robbed of Champions League football because their biggest rivals cried, bitched and moaned to UEFA to change the rules, which they didn't deserve. And then you had close to winning an FA Cup final, but they came up against an amazing Chelsea team.
Chelsea team that had that spine that won them stuff all the time, no matter who was manager.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then fast forward 2023, David Moyes is a European champion. Even if it's a third tier trophy, it's still European trophy.
And ultimately is still something you've got to qualify for in minimum of 7th position, which in modern Premier League is difficult.
Yep.
Moyes gets European football every year. If it like Matt Moyes Everton, if you were to look at what qualifies now, he gets European football every year. Granted, maybe there might be an element of, you know, second season syndrome, too many fixtures, etc., etc.
They were getting round 16 regularly under David Moyes in the UEFA Cup at the time when it was called the UEFA Cup. They were getting, and they had Saha, Yakubu, and Andy Johnson as strikers, like to rotate around with Anichebe.
His final season, he played Fellaini further forward as a box threat because he is. Fellaini's say what you want about him, he is a maverick in both boxes, but going forward, it's a great asset to have because he's an absolute nuisance. He's useful, and I think that when you're a manager who's been there, this is why I say managers need time, because you need time to set in your principles, get rid of the weeds, the deadwood, all the bad things that are going to hinder your progress with that. And once you build a good core and once you build a good side, then any player that comes in will fit right in.
And that's what some managers have actually tried to do. Like one manager, funnily enough, who claims he isn't renowned for it, but he actually physically tried at 2 clubs, is Mourinho.
Yeah.
He tried it when he returned to Chelsea. He admitted himself he's coming back to Chelsea to win, but he's coming back to win differently. He comes back, brilliant. The fact he gets a Champions League semi-final against eventual runners-up Atletico Madrid.
With that scraps of team, especially as a striker, you have 3 strikers who
weren't good enough.
I don't think any of them exceeded the 10-goal mark. I could be wrong on that, but
you're right. But the second season, he brings in Fabregas and he brings in Diego Costa, complete amazing. Puts Courtois on the side, and they win the league comfortably. The following season, he admits it's all about same thing. We're here to win, but we want to build us a long-term side for the future. And what do? They're in 10th position. We're just going to sack him. Is it the right decision? Me personally, I think it was the wrong decision. I think Chelsea should have kept Mourinho.
No, I think he'd lost the dressing room at that point. I think it just gotten too bad. I think that it left the board no choice.
But then same circumstances as well when he was at Man United. Funnily enough, when you think about what Man United did under Mourinho,
he did what he was asked. He was asked to win with scraps, and he did. But then when it got to a point where he was like, listen, you want me to win the league or something, I can't do it with this scraps. I need more. And they were like...
The irony is, right, this is something I've always found ironic amongst United fans on social media, right, is the ones that are always saying, what's your prediction? Oh, God, top 4 is our expectation. There was literally an interview during his time as manager when Sir Matt Busby said, 2nd place isn't good enough for Manchester United. We are here to win and play good football. And that, whether it be young players or experience, we're here to win. And people say, but that's just glory hunting. That's your manager who's won a European Cup and won league titles, and he's in FA Cups and brought through some of the best young players of all time. And he is coming out and saying in an interview, 2nd place isn't good enough for Manchester United. Manchester United must always be on top. He is telling you in the 1960s, 70 years ago, he is telling you now, from then, 2nd place isn't good enough. Sir Alex Ferguson, the minute he comes in, the only way to qualify for the European Cup is by winning the league. His exact words in his first press conference. He speaks about winning the league. Nowadays it's we gotta get top 4. Not to those 2, Mourinho came in. What's the first thing Mourinho says? Got to get to the we want to get back in the Champions League next year. And if we've got to do that by winning the Europa League, then we'll do it by winning the Europa League. He's already pretty much said it. We're going to go and win something. That's a big club, big manager talking. And he had the same idea. He wants to win. But then he turned around saying, I'm going to win with younger players as well. And nobody believed him. They're like, nah, he's not going to win with young players. He'll buy with experience. He played a lot of young players that season. And the media have tried to scapegoat him. Yeah, but you can play young players if they're actually committed. Mourinho can get them committed if they actually wanted to work. They didn't want to work. And even though he's an absolute dick at times, even Paul Pogba said it himself enough about the Man United fan base that the Man United fans don't understand football. Because the way they talk, they think they're so arrogant. There's a lot of arrogant Man United fans that don't understand. But the Man United fans that claim the United way is youth and winning football matches. No, the United way is to win trophies. Yeah. It's to win trophies with youth. It's in the tagline. Youth, courage, success. 3 words. That's the United way, but people always go, but we're going to get to that. When? Like, I'd love for it to hear, like, this was 1960. This is 1968. Man United have not won the league, but they've just went and won the European Cup. It's not good enough. Get rid of him. Like, that's the mindset of football fans nowadays, and that generally was something that the anointed godfather of Manchester United said as an interview when he was manager. Second place isn't good enough. That's what happened to Arsenal. Arsenal thought top 4 was a trophy to get them Champions League, when some of those seasons they were good enough to win the league. That 08-09 season, for example, when we won the league and the League Cup and we nearly won the Champions League, if it hadn't been for Ronaldo missing a sitter in the first 5 minutes against Barcelona, Arsenal were actually good enough to win the league that year because we were suffering because of the Club World Cup. Mm-hmm. Arsenal were like 10 points clear, and we reined them in. And that was a good Arsenal side as well. Eduardo's injury cost them, but they still had Adebayor, quality in the time in the league. That difference.
Arsenal finished 4th that year.
They were
finished 4th. In 08-09, they finished 4th. In the last couple of games of the season, they lost to a Chelsea side who had, sacked Scolari. Each year, Arsenal could have had it in them, but they were gone soft. The Eduardo season, obviously the year before, then obviously that season, they still had quality. They still had issues where Gallas was stripped off the captaincy. They were losing games to like Aston Villa at home, who were still a good side, but
that was a very good Martin O'Neill side.
Yeah, but when you're persisting with, I think the issue is when you're persisting with Almunia and Fabianski rotating whenever one of the other makes a mistake, I think that it's not going to give you the stability you need. Yeah, it wasn't going to come good in the long run.
And that's what comes back down to that conversation. Even though we went around on a different tangent for about 20 minutes, which is absolutely brilliant. 25 minutes. We love this on this show. That's the point I was getting across the whole time.
Yeah.
If a manager is forced to adapt to the league and adapt to what you've got, you've had it. But if a manager forces that to adapt to you, you're in control. That's why Pep Guardiola has won 6 league titles in the Premier League. That's why he's only the second manager to win 3 league championships in a row. The second Premier League manager to win the treble. He forced the league to adapt to him, especially after he was told your players aren't going to work. His technical directors told him they're not going to work. They're too light, but we're going to sign the same players, similar style, but they're going to be so much more physical for you, and they will actually withstand what the league goes through. Wenger went he completely betrayed his beliefs.
He just went off the rails, and ultimately, look at where he ended. It was just mediocrity, is what you could describe it as right at the end.
This right here,
and he had fans turning on him.
It says it all. I think if you've got a good structure in place and you've got...
Like, why are they always successful in Europe? There's your answer.
I mentioned Bodo Glimt before with Kjetil Knutsen he was a manager the Rangers wanted. Like, he was linked with Rangers for a reason because of the work he's done at Bodo Glimt. Genuinely good side. Good in Europe as well. Just ask Tottenham fans, just ask Celtic fans.
Exactly.
But like, it's important when we've labelled about clubs that even if they make managerial changes, it's always even if it's right or wrong, they still seem to get it right because they're probably the best run club in Europe, and that is Bayern.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're an absolute carnage right now, with such circumstance, they are clicking under Thomas Tuchel now. But you know, at some point there will be a bust up again. But you can see they will still get the following appointment right. Not because it's Bayern as a club, they're going to win the Bundesliga every time, but they have serious competition coming in the likes of Leipzig, who are still red in their tails. Leverkusen are thriving under Xabi Alonso. Edin Terzic is working at Dortmund. He's got it clicking now. They have all of that going, and hella, it's appreciate having in here. Thank you very much. Have a good night. That's important. Oh, they've just scored. Madison.
Yeah. 2-0.
Yeah. So that was Julio's point of view on Bournemouth. Completely agree with him, mate. Nathan, give me your run-up on Bournemouth and then jump straight into Ajax, where the real entertainment kicks in.
Yeah, so pretty much I stick with what I said earlier about Bournemouth. Give him more time, because at the end of the day, squad's underachieving, you're just going to slip down the table. But Ajax. Have I cursed them or something? 17th in the league. Admittedly, they've got 2 games in hand, so they could bump up the table a little bit into mid-table. But, I mean, -5 goal difference. Supposedly the biggest club in the Netherlands. In the relegation zone, if you get relegated, you're in the same league as your B team.
It's mad.
Sacking their manager today after one of the worst starts ever. Like, talk about a club that is in a mess from top to bottom. Looking at the squad, mediocre as anything. We all know their pedigree from their youth academy that they've lost over the years and have not been able to replicate, because the amount that's gone out of the door, the conveyor belt is not churning out enough of those youngsters. The academy is just not producing. They're not getting in these players that reinvest in the squad depth. They've got themselves into such a position where they're now just going to plummet down the league. And once you're stuck in that rut, as we've seen so many times before with many clubs, especially across Europe, in particular in nations as well, where all the money isn't there. It's not like your Serie A's, your La Ligas, your Bundesligas, these sort of couple of team strong leagues where you can't reinvest coming in from these big clubs. And to be honest, it's only going to get worse from here unless a major rebuild from the top, including director of footballs, the whole shebang, is done from start to finish.
Yeah, I think another thing as well that's quite interesting as well is Ajax's net spend, for example, under Ten Hag was -200 million, which is incredible. Now they still aren't spending. Ajax, if they really want to fix the squad, you can still add youth players to your squad. Nobody's ever going to say no to that for Ajax. But you can still buy quality, exciting young players and build your team. It's almost as if they're just afraid to spend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get, like, it's not as easy as to win the Eredivisie now because Feyenoord are so strong. PSV have gotten stronger since Van Nistelrooy left. Like, they've just went up a level. It's almost as if they are too scared to go, now we're good. We're still the best historically in Holland. We can do this. No, you've finally been found out.
They have.
Julio, what do you think of?
I mean, the writing has been on the wall, I think, because Ten Hag did an excellent job with them. They didn't win the league for a few years before Ten Hag came in. He came in, a boardroom was put above him. Altogether, it all came together. He had a philosophy, the recruitment was good. You had Van der Sar right at the top, right there running just general side of it at the top. You had someone delegated for the footballing side. You had people there. Ten Hag built what he wanted philosophy-wise in the first 6 months. And then that's why they were able to go and be such a great side, even losing. Ajax were gutted under Ten Hag, and he rebuilt that team. without a huge net spend, if you know what I mean. Granted, he had a lot of money coming in.
But they should have spent some of that properly. They should have. The amount of money
What?
they made from the likes of De Ligt, De Jong, Van de Beek, like, and Hakim Ziyech.
A lot of players went, players came in. There was more of a they sold Van der Beek, for example, and would replace him with Davy Klaassen, for example, who was a Premier League flop, who in his late 20s didn't look like he was having a career anywhere. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I don't know the exact dates between. I know Van der Beek left 2020. I don't know when Klaassen came in, but you see what I mean.
Same year.
Was it actually the same year?
Yeah.
So you see what I'm getting at here with like who's leaving, who's coming in and stuff, whilst also trying to integrate more young players. You know, Lisandro Martinez was signed a few years prior anyway. Was signed around the same time, if not before, De Ligt left. You know, De Ligt left. Martinez came in as a young player from Argentina.
Martinez was originally a defensive midfielder for them.
Exactly.
So
But-
was Alvarez.
I think in the last couple of years, we've seen the manager go. We've seen the football. I don't know what the exact role Overmars was called. The title.
Overmars was their director of football.
Yeah, I don't know what the exact title was, but if we're
No, that was
talking
it.
essentially
No, he
what
was-
that was it. Yeah,
he
Van der
was the
Sar
director of football.
Van der Sar stepped in, but it wasn't exactly his field. Now he's gone, so you see that like spine has already gone. Not to mention a lot of their squad was gutted when Ten Hag left. There were rumors, apparently. I don't know how true it is, but the new manager came in. I don't know. There was apparently, I don't know how credible this is. I read a rumor that apparently Martinez had an argument with him. And Martinez had an argument with him, which essentially was said that you'll never be him in terms of you'll never be like Ten Hag, etc. Those weren't the exact words, but that was kind of what was apparently said. I don't know how credible that is, so don't hold me to that. I've since tried to find the story and I can't find it anywhere. So anyway, the point is that a lot of the players left. They're not doing as well. The manager gets sacked. So it's not looking good. Someone takes over till the end of the season. They bring someone else in. Yeah, Heitinga to the end of the season. Someone else comes in. It's now just a rotational cycle, and it's a club in disarray. You know, I think that I think there's a couple of good academy players coming in. They've still made some decent signings for decent players, but I just think that
they've got one player
everything's
in particular
mismanaged.
I really like. They've got one player in particular I really do like, and I still insist that Man United should stop signing players from Ten Hag that are from the Eredivisie or the Dutch league, because we need, I would rather we go out and sign players from Portugal or Ligue 1 because it's more physical. Bundesliga I don't mind. La Liga or Serie A makes sense, but there's only maybe one or two players from Holland I would sign for United right now. And the one in particular, Ajax, I really do rate. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Is Kenneth Taylor. I think he's an amazing central midfield player, and left-footed as well. That would really help on the left-hand side for us if we're playing a midfield three. It gives us that little dimension of a natural left-footed player can play on that side. He's a good playmaker, but he's absolutely rough at getting at the ball.
Yeah,
and the other is Timber, obviously, but I think we need
Quentin Timber.
Yeah.
At final. Yeah. The Dutch league has some good players, just not at Ajax at the moment. And I think sacking the manager was the right thing, given that it seems that everything's in disarray and they're where they are. The question is now, where do they go from here? What kind of appointment do they make? Where do, not just on the pitch, like on the touchline, but upstairs as well. You know, I believe Louis van Gaal is in some kind of consultancy role, which I really like. Personally,
I think they were wrong to immediately rush in Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. Huntelaar was rushed in so quickly to get the director of football role, and Bayern Munich made the same mistake with Oliver Kahn. They rushed him in so quickly, and he got sacked after a year, which is a shame because they are legends of those respective clubs. Huntelaar is a Bayern, an Ajax legend. Kahn is a Bayern legend, but you can't just rush them into those roles. You've got to let them learn the role. so they were stupid to just chuck him in. Van Gaal being there is impressive, but I said the same thing about Holland during the international break, that even though they've got Koeman, they make one fatal mistake. They abandoned the style that brought them to the dance. It came from Ajax, that Dutch style that everyone remembers, like the total football style. They betrayed it. Even though it worked under Van Gaal to play tournament football, total football worked for tournament football as well. It worked because it was so hard to beat them, because they were just constant rotation playing the ball. They were doing that in abundance with Ten Hag, but they don't play that total football style anymore. They abandoned it. If you abandon what brought you to the dance, you're fucked. Like Barcelona nearly abandoned their style, but they've went back to it with Xavi. Like Real Madrid play the same style now. It's that dominant pressing football with the elements of the counter-attack. Man United, that's what all Man United were. That mixture of style.
Mm-hmm.
If you abandon what brought you to the dance, you're fucked. AC Milan once abandoned their style, which was you play very compact, high line, look for the offside trap, and it had success. That was under Saki, it was under Capello. They abandoned it for a while. They went back to it under Ancelotti. It's no coincidence they didn't win a league for so long until Allegri and then Pioli, because they've done the same thing, but Pioli's playing good football, even though I still don't think he's the right guy. If you abandon what the club's all about, you're going nowhere. So Ajax are in that same situation. The new manager, he was doomed for the get-go, but I think another thing set up Ajax in a bad way. The way the previous manager treated the likes of Daley Blind and Calvin Bassey, how they both were treated really set Ajax up for
Schroeder.
Just how bad. Yeah, Schroeder.
Do you know what the problem is with Schroeder?
They've not had anything since.
The problem with Schroeder was they appointed him. He was someone who had been an assistant manager for the majority of his career.
I agree on this. Like Pioli, I've mentioned because I didn't like the fact he kept constantly rotating systems, but at least he's finally settled on a bloody formation. At least he's finally done that, so I've got no issue with that.
The reason I bring Schroeder into this because of that assistant coach thing is because, you know, United's Ten Hag's assistant at United, Van der Gaag, has been linked to that role at Ajax, and I just think that it would be a mistake for him to go, given he's a number 2. I think Ajax are at a point where they need to get someone not exactly proven, but someone who has first team experience.
It wouldn't surprise me if Van Gaal gets on an interim basis.
It would not. Honestly, it would not surprise me if Van Gaal goes downstairs. Whether he would implement the style of play again, I don't know. Van Gaal has experience of rebuilding teams, like with the Alkmaar story. I know that was way back when, but him doing it from an upstairs role, I think would benefit Bear. It's just, if I was Louis van Gaal, and I think he would be doing this, it's suggesting that we go back to the Ajax way. We look at that. We get someone in who will bring the good style of football back to Ajax like it should be. Maybe it's like someone stepping up from somewhere lower in the Eredivisie. For example, Ten Hag did a good job at Utrecht before he went to Ajax. Is there anyone like that? I don't know personally.
I think, crazily enough, there's one manager I've never seen manage Ajax, but I've always wanted to at least see him in the job, but I don't think he manages anymore. I would have loved to have seen Frank Rijkaard as the Ajax manager.
Jesus, that is
good shout.
I would have.
Now that you said Frank, I'm worried they'll get into Butt.
Yeah. But Rijkaard, it's a shame because Rijkaard got so much disrespect after he got sacked at Barcelona.
Yeah.
But his Barcelona team was actually good. It's just the fact is, in the season he got sacked, Ronaldinho couldn't be bothered fucking turning up to play football. He wasn't interested. The only player that actually was professional the whole way through was Puyol. Like Xavi and Iniesta just didn't bother. So of course Real Madrid are going to absolutely rock the league. But I think Rijkaard had a good side, generally such a good manager. And I liked, even though I prefer Real Madrid to Barcelona, I respect both clubs' histories. But even
that
I couldn't
Rijkaard
help
team
but
hits different
it was so
for its
good.
own way. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can like that whole team. Victor Valdez in goal, Oliguera, Puyol centre half. You had Van Bronckhorst at right back, phenomenal. Midfield, Xavi, Iniesta together. Eventually, when they got put into the team together, we had Ludovic Juli,
You
Henrik
had
Larsson
Deco in there.
Deco. You had we had Rafael Marquez. You had backup
Torre.
striker. No, he was later. He wasn't in that team. But you had
He was in just towards the end, but
yeah, but it doesn't count. Technically, it doesn't really count. But like backup striker was Larsson. You had Samuel Eto'o. You had Messi coming through. You had Ronaldinho. Like Silvinho. Giuliano Belletti as well. Yeah, like it was a seriously good side that he built, and that just shows the level of manager though that he didn't win the league for 2 seasons. So of course they're going to rightfully sack him, which is fine. They went trophyless for 2 years. They went, this isn't going to change. But that is important where you really need to consider. I don't think he's managed for years, but it's just something I've always wanted to see because he understands Ajax.
The interesting thing, actually, I mean, I kind of get the theory, but there is actually thought behind this in the sense of you want to go back to a certain era, you bring someone in who's been there and knows what it's about, but I don't think he can implement it the same way, potentially. What I was thinking was, obviously, Bayer Leverkusen plucks Xabi Alonso out the Sociedad second team. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yeah, then is there someone in world football who's the manager of a second team who could come into this? Because I feel like if there was put it this way, if Xabi Alonso was still with the Sociedad second team, I feel like he would probably be a good fit.
Raul
could be a good option.
He manages Real Madrid Castilla.
Okay. Do you know how good he's doing there?
Not so bad. Ignazio Abate as well.
Really?
Abate is the Primavera manager at AC Milan, and they're unbeaten right now. They're unbeaten. There's also another one that is interesting because I don't think he's in a job, and his style, considering who he was as a player, as a combination, might be interesting. Pirlo is unemployed.
Pirlo? I swear he's in a job right now.
No, he ain't. He ain't in a job. He was in Turkey and he got sacked. Miroslav Klose was in a job, got sacked. But he's
Pirlo's at Sampdoria.
He's at Sampdoria now. Did he join recently?
It must have been fairly recently. I think either during the summer or just after.
I didn't see him get appointed in the news, but if he's in a job, good. I want to see him back in a job. Thiago Motta as well.
I don't think it started well for him there, though.
Yeah. That's Artur Jorge will get snatched up soon. He gets snapped up by everybody. Like, he's been all over Turkey, Fenerbahce, like with Turkey with Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, Sporting, Benfica. He's mental. But this is a good comment. I prefer Real Madrid, but that team at Barca, their best ever team, is the best ever team being La Liga. Yeah. Agreed. It's up there. As a manager, he's incredible though. Like, he does get around Artur Jorge. Like, I agree. Like, he's always in mad jobs. That's because he's a veteran, but he understands the game, and I think that's important. It depends on what Ajax want, but I think were Ajax right to get rid of their manager based on results and performances? Absolutely. Was this manager screwed from the beginning?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Probably, yeah.
Could he have turned it around?
Probably not.
I think he would have done.
State of play off the pitch.
Yeah, I think it got so bad that
there must have been something that even more toxic that we don't know about. There must have been something additional that was like it just was never going to work. But what is for sure, he is unemployed. He's lost out. It's a shame. But if Ajax really want a top manager, he's never going to leave. But what's crazy is, not going to lie, it would have been funny to see Ajax go up against Brighton with De Zerbi as manager. but it ain't gonna happen. But whoever the next Ajax manager is, we will pay attention.
Could be
Because who knows?
Knudsen from Bodo Glimt.
Could be Michael Beale.
Could be.
Oh my god!
That'll be a comedy show.
Mick Beale is probably
calling.
calling at this point. Mick Beale is probably like, it's 10-2. Anyone will do. So he's picked up the phone. Ajax, like, so you got a job opening there. Who is this? Michael Beale. Who? You mean that old bloke from EastEnders? No, that's Ian Beale. I'm Michael Beale.
Exactly. We're gonna have the Michael Beale show. We're just gonna call it that. Funny how so many players are leaving Ajax. Exactly, and then immediately Michael Beale gets the laughs. Speaking of Michael Beale,
Oh my god. Let's play Beale or no Beale.
it's heads. So we're gonna. So I was hoping for tails because we don't have to talk about his replacement, but we are. Michael Beale's long-term replacement, Philip Clement, had an absolute outstanding league debut against Hibs at the weekend. 4-0,
Goals.
4-0, and 23 shots. Madness.
That is making a statement.
I do think another former Rangers manager could get another job. Let's see, are you thinking Steven Gerrard, Pedro Caixinha?
Hey, Gerrard
Not
could
get-
be out of a job. He just lost in front of a crowd of 600 people.
Yep. It won't be Gattuso because he's obviously at the Marseille job, God rest him. But I wonder if you are meaning Gerrard. What would be funny though is Gerrard actually would suit the Eredivisie. His style of play actually, crazy enough, does suit Ajax.
What about Solskjaer?
Oh,
No.
oh. Now you're cooking. But
Did you not mention his name not too long ago, Reece?
is Van Bronckhorst going to get an Ajax job? No.
Hang on,
And
he was
why-
at Feyenoord beforehand, wasn't he? Oh,
Yeah,
That's the
he
exact
was.
reason.
And he won the league with Feyenoord. Good manager though, but not for Rangers. He just wasn't because he just couldn't translate it to the league. But gentlemen,
oh no, it won't be Van Bronckhorst. He's got a new job as a fashion brand ambassador. I'm not even
Oh,
joking. I'm not
what's
even
it-
joking.
what's it called? Vanned out. Anyway,
No, it's called joined forces with Blue Rivet, a jeans
All
brand
right.
for men.
so it's French. Okay. So
At least
anyway,
that's how I've pronounced it. It could be wrong.
yeah, absolutely. Anyway, statement from Philip Clement at the weekend against a team that obviously they need to get a result on. Rangers are now back-to-back league wins. Stephen Davis obviously won the game against St Mirren, won 3-2, put them into second. They've now just battered Hibs 4-0. They've now got Hearts coming up in successive matches. You get 23 shots, 4 goals. You dominate every single metric. Even unbiased opinion, lads. What are you thinking? Because all I'm going to say is that I said last week when he got the job, I said if he gets a very strong performance in his first game, it will force Celtic to react. But what are you thinking?
I completely agree. To be honest,
yeah.
even though the Celtic are running away with it a little bit, you can see that the complacency is coming through, and it was always going to happen when Brenda got the job, and that's just the case with it. But I think it will put the pressure on now. But at the same time,
I think that's fair. I will say I think this is fair.
At the same time, I do think there is this new manager bounce there that will eventually run out. But I think it does close the gap. But it pretty much, the way I see it, and it's always going to happen in the SPFL, whoever makes the wrong move will get penalised.
Yep.
And the fact that both of them are making the right moves at the moment and are really dominating, well, Celtic are just being obviously Celtic.
Yeah.
But whoever messes up first will slide down.
Yeah. And the fact that as well that what they've done right is he's putting players properly in their right positions.
Yeah.
And he says we're going to play dominant football against a team that's actually been playing okay this season at times in Hibs. I mean, they're only on 9 points, fair enough, give or take, but that's only 2 points off Hearts, who are in 4th, which says a lot how tight it is for them. But it's that level, and I do agree. Celtic have got so much quality. Like I'm not going to take that away from Celtic. They do have that quality, and the level of performance really will be a step up. And it's how you respond. Celtic did respond the right way as well. Funnily enough, like that's exactly what is going to push them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm eager to see where they go. That's a fair comment. Minus Tavernier, I generally don't think Rangers have a good team. Maybe that's just me. There are some players in the squad I would immediately get rid. There are. I won't deny that on you. One player who is potentially going in January recently just joined the club as well, and that's Jack Butland.
Already?
Yep.
Quick
turnaround. He is wanted by Birmingham City. Wayne Rooney wants him to be his main goalkeeper.
One last dance.
Jack Butland is the #1 candidate for Wayne Rooney in January for a goalkeeper. And this
Who's the goalkeeper now? Neil Etheridge.
Neil Etheridge, yeah.
Yeah, but several sources from Birmingham and Rangers have confirmed there is serious interest from Rooney wants Butland as his #1 goalkeeper.
I don't understand that.
And if he goes,
I always thought Etheridge was quite a solid goalkeeper.
He is.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, there is some in that Rangers team. Like the players I would get rid of straight away. If Butland is seriously considers wanting to go away, then put McCrory in goal. I'm okay with that. Tavernier, I would keep him, but to be honest, I'm not playing him as a right back. I want him further forward, and he has to be removed of captaincy.
Yeah,
I think I would keep. I think Goldson's okay. I think Goldson's always been reliable, but he can just have an issue where he can just get an issue of bookings or silly yellows or a few reds. I'm keeping Nicholas Raskin. I think Raskin is an absolute menace from box-to-box perspective, and he's got an attitude of I'm here to win. But on the flip side, I would also consider getting Raskin rid of him, because when he first came in, he immediately said, "My future is I want to play for Chelsea." So immediately he's using Rangers as a stepping stone. I don't like that attitude. He plays for Rangers committed, but he's always eyes on that picture. I'm keeping Danilo. I think Danilo's okay. He's not long in the club. I'm keeping Ridvan Yilmaz, but his problem is he gets injury prone. Todd Cantwell. I'm keeping Cantwell. I think Cantwell settled into Rangers really well since he's joined. He's always consistently played well since he's joined the club. I think Scott Wright's a consistent player for the club. I think Abdillah Sima's finally finding his shooting boots. Dessier scored the weekend. I think he's found his shooting boots. I'm keeping Hadji. I would recall in January Alex Lowry from Hearts. I think there's some good young players in there as well. Immediately, a few of these players I'm getting rid of. Off the bat, I'm getting rid of Ryan Jack. Even though he's reliable, he's just getting on. I would replace him with a younger defensive midfield option. Balogun should never have been brought back. Ben Davies is shit. Get rid. Kemar Roof. He's a striker, but to be fair, don't need him. Lundstrom should never have been signed in the first place. No idea.
Waste of money.
Yep. Borna Barisic. He's been reliable, but I think it's time to phase him out. I think there's options there. It's that level of commitment is important. No, he never does. And it's a shame because his goal that he scored in the Europa League always stands out. That halfway line finish was absolutely immense. I think what it is they want is important. I think this new manager will know what players he wants and who fits into his team. The first performance is always important. He got that. What market is he going to use? I don't know. But if he looks at the Belgian market where he managed before, there's some really good players like Skov Olsen. There's Buchanan that I mentioned last week as well. Really good wingers if he wants to add wingers in. I hope he keeps Matondo. But I think Matondo will be on his way out at some point. I do think so.
I don't know why I can see Matondo back in the Championship.
Yeah,
but genuinely, I don't know who for.
yeah. Signed Jesse Lingard. He's been rejected by City. I don't think that's going to happen.
God.
What's crazy though is I could see him looking at players in the French league. 'Cause obviously, he did manage Monaco.
Yeah,
It wouldn't surprise me if he looks at a few Monaco talents. Like, it'd be crazy if Rangers end up signing Kevin Volland, but they could. What will
I
they
don't think
do?
it's the wildest suggestion in the world.
No, it's not. It's his experience is vital. I don't know who Rangers will go for, but get it right works. And I like what I saw, but I agree. I'm not going to get so carried away. But I like the performance. See where it goes. But anything else you guys want to add on that one?
don't think so.
Not on Clement. I mean, I was impressed with that showing of the weekend, and I think this is a sign of things to come. I think if all goes well with Rangers, it could be a very good. I see Rangers competing with Celtic, but I think it would come down to two things. I think Clement will be that good, but I also think that Celtic will fall off.
So only
because
7
of
points between
Brendan
them.
Rodgers.
Nine games played, 7 points. There's still a long way to go.
Yeah. One thing I did want to say, actually, because it popped into my head from an article I read a while back about the Ajax job.
And I agree with that
Based
comment
on-
too.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. One thing I did
Spot
want
on.
to say, because
Go on.
Nuri Sahin is now, granted, he's not at the greatest team in Turkey, quite a mid-table outfit.
I just want to say, Mainz is doing good. They're doing sixth in the league. But they're only 5 points off St Mirren, who are third, and they're only a point off Hearts. Livingston, Kilmarnock, and Motherwell are all on the same points, but it's purely goal difference. It's just goal difference. It's mad. That's how tight it is right now in the league.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest Nuri Sahin simply on style of play alone, because even though that team, that Antalyaspor team he's got, have been very inconsistent in the time he's been there.
Nuri Sahin, you said.
Yeah. One
Good
thing
shout.
he has with that team,
Good player.
he has
He was a good
possession identity. It's a very high and intense pressing. There are some aspects of it, with inverted fullbacks and the way he sets up with a 3-2-5 almost going forward in possession.
I hate inverted fullbacks.
I just think that based on, in theory, reading it, it might work. But I think it's a big jump going from a team that finishes around 14th or 15th in the Turkish league to Ajax, who are in desperate need. But I was going off that based on something I've read, and it's a young manager coming through almost.
They
True.
just do.
Facts.
He regularly scores, though. It annoys me that Van de Beek always scores.
Yeah.
That bugger always scores. It does my head in.
Yeah, that's true.
New Shaheen wouldn't be a bad shout, though. Like, he was a
It's
good
just
player
on
as well.
theory. Based on what I read, it's in theory. I just think that the size of the job is a completely different animal, and I feel like he would have to at least ply his trade longer to be ready for it. I think for a job like that, he's not ready for it, even if in theory it looks good.
I'm actually going to see if I can find the betting for Ajax
Yeah.
for their for the next manager. I'm going to have a look. There we go. Next. Oh, is that up to? Is that June? No, that's June. That's not what I want. I want recent. Come on. No, I don't care about the next Ajax. The next Holland manager. Can't see anything. See if you can find something, because I'm eager to find out, like, just who is actually linked. Actually, I'm going to see who is actually linked to the Ajax job. We're going to have a look. Let's have a look. See what's up there. Somebody's actually put Ajax might get relegated as an article. The Sunday Olesi. And who
Wouldn't
said?
surprise me. Here we go. New Ajax manager betting odds. Let's have a look.
Oh yes. Get that sent in here so I can.
I haven't thought Pascal Janssen.
It turns out it's that
Oh, no.
irrelevant. There is absolutely no one on this website I've gone onto.
I think it's because it's fresh. It's very fresh. The sacking
could
happened
be.
this evening. I think if you give it a couple of days, I think we'll start seeing
Yeah, it's too early.
what would happen with that.
They'll look to put something in quick though. Let's be real. They will look to get someone in fast. Because
Well, it depends.
anything,
It depends because I saw a report that they were looking for an interim manager. So I
If
don't
they
know
go
if they're
back
just
to
going to
the-
sack it off to the end of the season.
they
The
should.
thing is, any
They
time
shouldn't. No, it's early enough to bring someone in to
Mm.
start something.
because really, if they put an interim manager in, we've seen it so many times before. It is just kicking the can down the road because you do not know what to do.
And the players won't listen.
Yeah, because they'll know, oh, he's going to be gone soon. Not only that,
Unless
so we can
it's
force a permanent
Louis.
manager. Let's just play terribly under him.
They should get a manager in now. Because theoretically, how many points are between them and the top 3, which is Champions League?
Let's have a look.
Sorry, top 2. Sorry, top 2. Because they're in what?
20 points.
And they are in what position?
They are second bottom in 17th.
So 20 points. And you look at the teams above them. You put a manager in that's permanent
Mhm.
with a good style. I'm not going to say they're going to go and win the league.
But as long as
But
they
they-
get on site, the players get on site quickly, they can make up that ground.
They
For
could
me, they get
easily.
into at least fifth.
They could easily finish 3rd or 4th. They could. Okay,
What about Lucien Favre?
shit manager.
I'm just collecting
I've already
scores of names.
I have already said so many times on this podcast he is absolute shit. Gentlemen, we have an off-topic request. So first of all, I'm going to announce it as off-topic. And this is an interesting topic brought to you by Maisie. 3, 2.
I have not seen this.
I think with reducing league sizes, though, it can be done providing that funding gets filtered down into the league below.
There is one league in particular that
compensate.
has a small amount of teams, and look at what it does for your league. It's repetition, and it's up here. I think they've made a massive mistake reducing the league size of Ligue 1. Because that means it's going to be the same team played like 3 or 4 times a season.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good. But 20 to 18 teams is not so bad. But it's still the fact is you'll be playing the same team more than once. Well, more than twice, sorry.
I think
don't
in that
think that's
aspect
right.
is, for me, looking at it, because it is Liga, it might not be, but I think it's just a protection of PSG.
Potentially.
So just pretty much lower the fixture congestion for them so they don't have to play league midweek games. That's probably what's happened there. But I mean,
Not
that's
playing
just
midweek is
another
good for them, though.
That's just another scenario.
But not
We'll
playing
discuss
midweek
that.
is also good for the other clubs. That's the only thing. Which
Right.
isn't fair. I mean
It
Mace's
is,
been in there.
it is a fair point. However, I do think that it is more damaging to teams in Ligue 2
Yeah.
and also lower down as well. So, for example, teams who are constantly fighting relegation.
It's going to filter on all the way down.
Getting at a weekend though is at least good where you get a full week of training.
Mm.
Unless you're like the regular clubs that play in Champions League football, Europa League, Conference
But
League.
then
midweek.
again, mentioning that does protect the elitist.
True.
It can. We'll certainly see. Oh, are they? Not gonna lie, that would make the French league a lot more exciting for me when I barely
Yeah.
watch it anyway. I watch it now and again for like certain matches, but not gonna lie, that would be intriguing. A relegation playoff. But this poses a question. I'm gonna ask to you guys, and I'll ask Maisie as well, because she's in the chat. How many teams do you think is enough for a league? For me, like what you want to go for, I think 20 is actually fine because you play 19 teams twice. That's 38 games. Or if you're playing 18, it comes down to what, 36 matches? 34, 36 matches, something like that.
Yeah.
Because you get that in Germany and it works.
And you get a
Spain's
winter,
about the same.
and with Germany, you get a winter break.
You get a winter
So
break
not,
here too.
not only do you avoid so much fixture congestion, you also get a winter break. You get a mid-season break for quite a lengthy period. Now, I love the fact that we've got Christmas football here as a viewer, but I think for players, I think they would prefer in Germany to have like in Germany they have time to, they have time off.
Yeah. But then again, if they're going to have these winter breaks, and I know the Premier League have investigated with it as well, I'd say do it end of January, middle of February.
I would just do
the Christmas scheduling as well, because it goes a bit haywire.
I would just do exactly. I would do what every other league does. I would do exactly the same period of time that Germany, Italy, Spain, Scotland do. Literally, even though there's some games at New Year and all that, right at the end of the year, I would go right up until the end, and then you just give them all of January, and then the first 2 weeks in February off. So it's like, well, that's at least 6 weeks off. I would just do that, and then you come back fully fresh, and it also benefits your national teams as well.
But then again, would that mean that the season gets extended into June, July?
There's no need. I don't think there's need, because those other leagues don't have that issue. They get all the games done on time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another thing as well you can get away with is, and I know they're doing it for the FA Cup, you scrap replays. For every round, there should be scrap replays. Just go straight to pit. Just have 90 minutes penalties. No need for extra time.
I don't know whether I agree with that.
Protecting the elitist again.
Yeah, protecting the... And then again, if you get, say, for example, a giant killing game. So let's say, for example, Manchester United against Grimsby Town. Grimsby could be missing out on a massive opportunity if they get a draw at Old Trafford to bring it back to their home ground.
I'd just give the league tie to them. I would just give the home tie. I would give the home tie to them. I don't think we need replays anymore. That just adds to the congestion, the fixture congestion. It adds to the topic of players being exhausted.
To the top clubs, not to the bottom clubs, because that's the way you got to look at it. I mean, ultimately, these clubs in Europe, yes, the fixtures do need to be reduced, and I think it is bad that UEFA are increasing the number of teams in the Champions League, etc. It'll be better for teams to get into European football, but looking at it on a domestic level is an absolute shambles, because you're going to have a situation where you have the teams in European football competing against a team in the Cup, say, for example, who doesn't have that bad as fixture congestion, but it is still rife in the Championship, just because the amount of games that are crammed. And I think that in a way as well, with the way that the Christmas fixture scheduling is run because of Sky, etc., because they want to plow all these games on TV, like there's a match on every day. But you're getting, like, some teams getting a day off. It just doesn't work.
It's unhealthy, and that's why I don't mind watching a game on Boxing Day. I don't mind watching a game on the 27th, but there should be no football on Christmas Day. That's changing. There should be no football. There should be no football on New Year's Day. I've seen Old Firm games on New Year's Day. Like, we don't need football on those days. Let them have the time off to properly recuperate. I think you really need to change and smarten things up. Are they going to do it? Unlikely. Here we go. This comment here from Maisie is outstanding, because this is it. The Ligue 1 relegation promotion playoffs is an annual playoff fixture in French football contested by 18th place in Ligue 1 and the winner of the Ligue 2 promotion playoffs. So what you're telling me is they're reducing the league from 20 to 18. Only 2 relegation teams for Ligue 1. Yeah. So they're reducing from 20 to 18. Does that mean 16 and 17 will become the playoff then? Sorry, 16th place will become the playoff.
It must.
How does it work in the Bundesliga?
Bundesliga, it's 18 teams and it's 8. So 18's relegated and you've got the playoff. 2 relegations plus
Hamburg
the 1.
Hamburg fight for promotion every year and never get promoted, which I think is crazy.
Which is that exact reason.
Because they always lose the playoff. They always
exactly.
lose the playoff place. But look at that. That's other clubs as well in the Scottish Championship, like Queen's Park, Dunfermline, and all that. Like this year, like Rovers, Hamilton, they all get to the playoffs. They just lose to the team that's in the like the Premiership, they just lose because it's quality and abundance. But it's a
Yeah,
two-legged
and
playoff
this
final.
is the exact reason as well, bringing it to the Premier League, why it just would not work, because the level between the Championship and the Premier League now, the gap is just ridiculously wide. And we've seen it
Money
this
is
season with
huge.
teams that have come up. And that's another thing which we'll get onto when we discuss the 3 o'clocks in a bit. But
Yeah,
the only way to reform it is to reform the TV deals, which are up in 2 years' time.
agreed.
Which
They have to follow that through. Same for our one. Like
have to
our one
sort
has to change. I still advocate that the Scottish Premiership should be at least 16 teams. Just put a tournament up where 4 teams will go up and just do it, and just have that, like 4 teams, or even put it up by 6 and increase it, and then you put up the Scottish Championship up to 20 teams. I think we need more, because I'm sick of seeing Celtic play Rangers 4 times a season. I'm sick of the league split. I like the Old Firm Derby, and it's 2 enough, it's fine, but Doncaster's a wanker. We are going to come on to RefWatch. I have one. Nathan has one. Julio has one. Mine's is from El Clasico. Nathan, disclose where your match is from, RefWatch.
So it's another shambolic decision in a Cardiff City match. That's all you need to know, and we were robbed of a
And
point.
Julio, your RefWatch is from the...
Mine's the debate from the Merseyside derby.
Perfect. Gentlemen, what are we going to start with? Which one?
Should we get mine out of the way?
Let's do it.
We will go with the Merseyside derby. By the way,
So my issue with it was, firstly, you got to look at, should Ashley Young have been sent off? And in refereeing terms, I actually think that to get that, the first yellow card was correct.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
No two ways about it. But I think that we've seen a lot of referees, what they'll do is, especially in a high intense game like that, the second challenge was Ashley Young being just slightly beaten by Diaz, because he was giving him the run around all game, and Ashley Young made a play for the ball. It wasn't too far away, but unfortunately he fouled Diaz. In 9 times out of 10 derby games, that is not given as a second yellow card, no matter how much the crowd shouts and screams and tries to influence. That
It's
is the
leeway.
challenge. That is the sort of challenge the referee says, right, one more and you're gone. That's it. That's leeway. Now the referee, the first error is making the mistake sending Ashley Young off, and unfortunately it doesn't come under the obvious error for VAR
So-
to get involved.
And that means referee has got protection.
Yeah, exactly. I think the referee. Listen, I'm all about referee getting more authority on the pitch and having the respect to the players. But when and when there's no consistency, especially going into the Canate challenge, it's very difficult to defend them. For example, the Canate challenge, there's 2 ways to look at it. You look at it for consistency. If you're going to send Ashley on for that second yellow card, then you have to send her off for that. But the other point is, if Ashley Young hadn't been sent off anyway, Canate should have got a second yellow, because Canate made no attempt to play the ball. It was simply like a crap. He's beaten me, floor him. It's almost a natural instinctive thing that maybe subconsciously even he didn't realise, but it's still a sending off. I think
Absolutely.
It's just so inconsistent as well, is another
I
thing
think
we'll look at.
The other issue is as well, you can talk about, it's not an obvious error or whatever, or it doesn't come under certain VAR requirements to look into it. No, it should be common sense for whoever's sitting in that room watching it. Should be common sense, like, hang on, let's rewind this, let's have a look at this. And that's what it is. Canate had to go, Ashley Young didn't have to go. I'm not saying the Ashley Young not getting sent off, Canate getting sent off, I'm not saying that would have changed the game as much. We'll never know. Ashley Young, for all we know, could have absolutely floored Diaz in the second half and gotten sent off, for all we know. We won't. The fact of the matter is, A, the referees aren't consistent. B, VAR are not stepping in through common sense. They're trying to stick to the rules that they've made for themselves. They're trying to give referees power on the pitch, which I said at the start of the season we would be seeing. However, I have also said I don't want to condone bad decisions. I'm happy that they're trying to give referees more power on the pitch, so that referees can maybe feed out the mistakes and have the confidence to make decisions themselves. And for all we know, the referee's gone in at halftime and realized, yeah, I shouldn't have sent him off for that. And because he realized that mistake with Ashley Young, he made that other mistake with Kanate. But it's common sense. You look at the foul, you look at as they are. Forget about the fans, forget about the influence. But the referees are not thick-skinned enough, and VAR should have stepped in with common sense, and yet they haven't. So
Which
what we
is
got
not,
is
because VAR, we all know the reason it was brought in. It was to fix those mistakes. But if they,
it was to help. It's video
Yes.
assistant referee.
exactly, and the fact
It's not
that
doing that.
it's not even offering assistance and sort of protecting the referees and even pursuing them to make bad decisions. Like, I'm surprised we didn't see another apology this weekend. It's completely insane. But I do think one thing we're not seeing enough of, and I don't understand why they're preventing them from doing this, is they need to go to the monitors more.
Yeah.
Because that's the purpose of it being there, so they can watch it in a better angle when they're put under pressure. Referees
But it's
shouldn't
an
be put under
obvious
pressure to
thing,
make a
though.
decision.
This is what I don't understand. It's an obvious attempt to not play the ball. You watch
Yeah.
Ashley Young's challenge again. Ashley Young looks like he's played the ball. That's why, if you're gonna, do you know what I mean? One looks more like a sending off than the other, and it's not Ashley Young's foul.
Yeah.
You sent him off. Okay, great. By consistency or letter of the law, either way, Kanate should have gone. There is no excuse
Yes.
whatsoever.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
Spot on.
And that's just the issue with referees now, is how much leeway they can get. Because at the end of the day, we've said it on this podcast so many times on different homes.
Mhm.
I mean, we've had more changes of home than a footballer, to be fair. Like, we just don't charge rent. The game is constantly being made softer for referees, and it's becoming even more apparent that when certain referees are labelled as divas for a reason, it's because it's always about them. And that's because they are all about making it so damn easy to protect them when it shouldn't be the case. There should be a leeway, but it's not the case anymore. Like, some of the stuff that's happened in recent months is ridiculous. It's going to get even more worse. It doesn't matter what technology they bring in. Like I said it about when Julio sent it to our group chat about the VAR system they want to bring in that was used at the World Cup. It's a year too late.
Yeah.
Like, it's nearly a year too late already. That World Cup was nearly a year ago. It makes no fucking difference. There's no point, because they still have idiots that don't know what to do. It has to change.
I think it's
Right.
crazy that we have a system called video assistant referee, and then 3-4 years after it's been implemented, 5 years even, we're all sitting at home still about as confused as a homeless man under house arrest. It's honestly ridiculous that we still have no clearance as to what's going on.
That is
And in fact,
very...
I think that the refereeing decisions, just on their own, have got worse. And I don't understand how that's even possible.
Yep.
Idiocy.
Remember-
Yeah, exactly.
Remember what I said? Was it February, March time? I said statistically there's been more negative decisions with fans than there was without fans. It was up by 15-20% for correct decisions compared to when football fans returned. It was down to 7%.
Because they haven't got the noise influencing them. The problem is the referees will come away with this and be like, well, you didn't like that, but now you didn't like it when I did do it, so I can't win. But that's not the point. The point is that you did it wrong one place and you did the wrong thing the other, either way.
Yeah, you're not making any right decisions. That's what we're getting.
Either do your jobs, or you bring in European officials that actually know what to do, and they are very, very consistent.
Yes.
It's simple. Nathan, your turn. You're up.
Where on earth do I start with this one? Cardiff City versus Blackburn Rovers. Corner kick. Ryan Winsell whips it in straight on the header for Demetrius Gutas. Goes in the back of the net.
I don't think anyone knew what was going on there regarding a decision.
Exactly.
And what happened next?
Gutas was in the middle of the box.
Yep.
A million miles onside. In fact, the entire Blackburn defence was under it. Why was it offside? Colin Grant was stood front post. Didn't touch the ball. How on earth is that a disallowed goal? I just don't understand it.
There's like impeding with play or whatever, but then that's just not. You know what I mean?
It's ridiculous. And the fact
sounds familiar, doesn't it? Like, you know, back-to-back games. First it was Scotland, now it was Cardiff versus Blackburn.
Yep. Very suspicious, but I mean, there's no beating around the bush from it. Straight off, no defending that referee. Gets it wrong once again. Exactly the same referee. Can't remember his name now. Did the same against us with Coventry last season.
He will be referred to as Wanker.
Yes. Consistently atrocious decisions. And ultimately, if anyone can give me a reason why that was ruled out, and a good reason why that should be ruled out as well, I am all ears, because I cannot find any reason that should have been ruled out.
What's even more disappointing as well is the fact is they actually do these weekly segments on TV and they actually defend the referees.
Yeah.
They find a way to defend referees.
I'm like, you don't find ways to defend them. You find ways to critique them properly and tell them where they can improve. Not go, but he's done well there. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear why you've got a decision wrong and you learn from it. But do they care?
Where you've gone wrong as well.
Exactly. But they don't do that. They just get Mike Dean to so caught up like a diva that himself. He's just missing his hair. He's never had any to begin with. But they're trying to find all that situation for him. Go, but he's done well here. And we're like, no. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely stupid. Ugh. Now it's my turn. Perhaps in terms of European elite, contested football, still one of even though it has fell off in recent years, it is still one of, if not, depending on how you view it, the biggest football fixture to date. Apart from the likes of the Old Firm and Manchester United versus Liverpool. In terms of European position, El Clasico is up there as an absolute elite fixture. Now, this this game had two funny points. One, if you've got me on Facebook, you'll see the fact that I shared it because One Football, who I actually think are a good football source to read, quoted, "The goal scorer is another football gem that Barcelona have produced from La Masia." First of all, he scored one fucking goal. That doesn't make him a gem. That just means he's a possible talent in the making. What's next? He wins, and my exact words were, what's next? He wins Player of the Month. He becomes the honourable heir to Lionel Messi. Delusional as fuck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we see this time and time again. We saw it with Gavi. We saw it with Xavi Simon. We see it with all these players. We'll see it with Ilyas Alkmaar coming through as well.
Yep.
Overhyping these extremely good wonder kids too early, and then they completely flop.
But since then, what
and
we
it's
will
all
say
about
though,
media.
Yeah. But since then, what we will say though, we will at least, because they were overhyped really fast, but they've turned it around. We will give the props to the likes of Gavi, Pedri, and Xavi Simon, because they have been fantastic ever since. But hyping up this kid is just ridiculously bad. One goal and he's the next game
at the end of the day.
Yeah, he scored against Real Madrid. That's amazing. But Bojan scored against Real Madrid. Look what happened to him. I mean, it's wrong to do this. Ansu Fati scored against Real Madrid. Now he's playing for Brighton. Like, no disrespect, but even if it's Brighton on loan, it's still a massive thing. So I think it's just completely stupid. But my RefWatch is a player that I absolutely adore. I've propped this guy so many times on this podcast. Federico Valverde. Why the hell was that not given as a penalty when his shirt is clearly being pulled in the box? That is a clear penalty that has been ruled in favour of Barcelona. Now, Real Madrid are well behind Barcelona in the league, which is expected. which not overly expected, but it is expected. How on earth can you not give that as a penalty? He's clearly pulling the shirt. Seriously, what do you guys think?
At the end of the day, inconsistent refereeing, and we've seen it even worse in comparison with the Premier League as well, with these La Liga referees. I don't know if they're structured or whatever, but some of the favoured decisions is absolutely shocking. And this is the prime example of one of them. I mean, there's no beating around the bush with it. There's no arguments to say why it wasn't a penalty. It was a flat-out penalty that was missed once again.
Yep. And on the biggest stage.
Yes. Which is obviously going to raise scrutiny through the roof.
Yeah. It's just it's just completely shocking behaviour. Yeah. And you cannot do that, because that will it decides championships.
It does.
And in the circumstance being, were Barcelona the better team on the night? Yes, they were. Not going to deny that. Barcelona were the better team in El Clasico, and the right team won the match. But the actual game itself, Real Madrid have been screwed out of a penalty that they actually deserved. It's beyond the joke.
Right. It is. And not only that as well, it's a momentum killer.
Yeah, 100%.
Any game, any big derby, shocking decision, it'll just deflate on the one side, especially if it's blatant. And then there you go. Your opponents will just run away from it. And we will see it time and time and time again.
We certainly will. We certainly will. It has now gone quarter past 10. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to say? Or will we wrap it there, gentlemen? Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Don't think so. Just really about going back to the, because we're going to mention the 3 o'clocks as well. Because obviously it's come out in the news that potentially in the next TV deal, they're looking to scrap it at Premier League level, which, in my opinion, I think is a complete disgrace.
Okay, good. Good, I'm all for that. What are we thinking about? Possibly there's a 6 o'clock one coming up as well. 6 o'clock fixtures are potentially happening. That really has to change.
I'm not a fan of Saturday night fixtures, to be honest.
They're okay in very, very, very rare occasions. I think if you're going to have more fixtures spread out, you can't be congesting Saturdays. People can't have 8 p.m. kickoffs because they've got work the next day or commitments or whatever. You know, they need to get back traveling all night. There are people who'll be making it so far the other side of the country for a match. They'll finish there 10 o'clock and then they'll spend the next 4 or 5 hours traveling to get back home. Do you know what I mean? I think it's fan convenient. It's fan inconvenience. I think if you're going to have an 8 p.m. fixture on Saturday, you may as well just move it to having 4 Sunday fixtures at this point.
It's about to get worse. It's about to get worse. Apparently at Christmas there's going to be one game on. I'm not sure if it's Christmas Day or or Boxing Day or whatever, but there's going to be a match apparently on TV, and there's possibility it could be, and I'm hoping this is not the case.
Is it a Christmas Day fixture?
It's
apparently
potentially
they're pushing for it because the NFL
looking
do
for
it. All the American
looking
leagues
for
do
a
it.
Spurs Christmas Day. Listen, I get it in America.
It's apparently going to be North versus South with no trains.
For God's sake.
How the hell are you going to have
fans yet again?
Yeah, how are you going to do that? Whilst I was actually sorting out, I finally, after a year, because obviously you've got to wait a full year to do it. This is not to discredit them because I think they're a good source, but Viaplay, my account, I officially cancelled my subscription after a year. One year of $11.99 payments. So I get the month for free, and then after that, done. Ridiculous. but I finally managed to cancel it. You have to wait
It is
a
absolutely
year before
shocking.
you have to wait a year before you can cancel Viaplay.
Jesus Christ.
More
Like,
money,
what-
more way of getting money out of you, and that goes to show they're in a sticky situation with licensing.
If I waited a year, I would have subscribed to a year's subscription, but I subscribed for a month, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't let me cancel it. Bollocks.
It is shocking, but in my opinion, the only acceptable kickoff times are obviously have one on Friday night, providing that the travel time between the two clubs is 3 hours max
Yeah.
as the absolute limit. Have one at midday, same again. Rest of it goes 3 o'clock. Then you have tea time-ish kickoff, 2 games on Sunday, and then a very close Monday night football for the Premier League. That is the limit. And then if you have to play it midweek, you also have the travel restrictions then as well, but you keep it to a minimum. Saturday night games, Sunday night games. Obviously, I've just been to one with Wales. That was a complete disaster, if anyone's seen my vlog. We had to park over 2 miles away.
It's not right. It's not right. Yeah,
And
and
not
that's
only
where
that as
football
well,
carry on.
Another factor, no trains after the game.
Because they've all stopped, because it's past the timing.
And because we're in Wales.
Yeah.
Which is, that's just another scenario, but it's only going to get worse on the new TV deal unless they restrict it to 3 o'clock now. Going back to the 3 o'clock, obviously you've got the blackout in the UK. If they get rid of that, we're in a very, very sticky situation for the EFL and lower. Because by putting these games on TV is going to take these attendances down because people will want to just watch it at home because it'll be there on TV. The blackout allows people to go watch their local teams and then watch the highlights later on. I mean, at the end of the day, my opinion is if you want to go and watch a 3 o'clock game, don't watch it on TV. Leave your house if you can and go and watch it at the stadium.
Yeah. Help your club by actually giving them a bit of money.
Exactly.
Unless it's United and don't contribute to the Glazers.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that, and it's mental. However, that has been a fantastic show, gentlemen. 2 hours and 2 hours and 12 minutes we're approaching. With night driving the whole stream, even better. I think we should add night driving to the streams going forward. It just feels right. I'll turn it off now. But thank you, night driving. To everyone that's watched, thank you very much. To the likes of Maisie, Hella, we thank you for your comments this evening. These have been great. Some great questions. Very helpful for us as well in terms of points, keeping us on topic as well. Adding to what we were talking about was even better. We do appreciate that. That is football in a nutshell. It brings people into comments. It brings people together. And we just have fun on this podcast. From my 2 co-hosts, thank you for being on tonight.
Yeah.
Any last comments before we go?
Yeah, come on City tomorrow night. And apart from that, enjoy the football and like, comment, subscribe.
Hell yeah. Julio?
No, I'm just going to sit here with my title as reigning quiz champ and just enjoy the evening.
I'll get you back next time.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is, since I am not just a football content creator, but I'm also a wrestling content, all I'm going to say is to close the stream, cross the line. That's all I'm going to say. Nostalgia, childhood is back as an adult, so cross the line. See you guys next week, because Nathan's hosting.
I am indeed.
Bye for now.
Live on YouTube. And listen back on Spotify. This is the World of Football podcast.